For a few years, I worked as a stripper. I don't carry any shame about that part of my life, and honestly, I only stopped because a better job offer came along. While I was dancing, I made a point of living as cheaply as I possibly could. Tiny rundown studio, cheap instant noodles for dinner, secondhand clothes, because my co-workers kept telling me that if I saved hard enough, I could eventually buy a place outright. And they were right. Before I ever quit, I managed to buy myself a 3-bedroom flat. At first, I rented out the spare rooms, but eventually I got tired of dealing with roommates, so now I just list them online for short stays. About a year and a half ago, I met this guy, and we've been together ever since. He knows about my past, and while he claims it doesn't bother him, he did ask me to tell his family the little white lie I sometimes put on my resume, that I worked as a waitress, which, to be fair, I sort of did. Then, about a month ago, we found out I was 2 months pregnant. He was thrilled, said it was wonderful news, and immediately started talking about moving in together. Naturally, I assumed he'd move into my flat. It's bigger, I own it, and there's plenty of space for a nursery. His apartment is a small 1-bedroom that he rents, while mine actually gives us some stability. Plus, I love my place. I've worked too hard to give it up. To me, this flat isn't just 4 walls, it's the proof of years of scrimping, saving, and pushing myself. It feels like home, and I want to live here for the rest of my life without worrying about rent or a mortgage hanging over me. But when we talked, he dropped a bomb. He didn't want to move into my flat at all. Instead, he wanted me to sell it so we could buy a new place together. I told him no way, I love my flat, and it means everything to me because I bought it with my own blood, sweat, and tears. That's when he admitted the real reason. He said he didn't want to live in a home that was purchased with stripper money. That made me furious. I reminded him that he never seemed to have a problem with my stripper money before, so why is it suddenly an issue now? I flat out told him I wasn't going to sell the security I built just because he suddenly wanted to twist my past into something shameful. He argued back that if I sold, we could use the money to buy a new place. I asked him how that was any different. It would still be stripper money, right? He insisted it wasn't the same, but couldn't explain why. Eventually, he stormed out, said he couldn't talk to me in this state, and went back to his own flat. Later, he texted me saying I was being irrational and needed to think about things realistically instead of emotionally. His excuse? He didn't feel comfortable raising a child in my place since his name wasn't on the deed and it would never feel like our home. And yeah, I'll admit, part of me started wondering if I was being too stubborn. Maybe I really was digging my heels in when we should be working as a team. My sister even agreed with him, which made me question myself even more. But deep down, I couldn't shake the anger I felt. The final straw came during another conversation. He flat out told me he didn't want to be a parent if I wasn't going to do everything his way, including selling my home and putting his name on the deed. At first, I tried to compromise. I said I'd be open to selling if he could contribute 50% to the purchase of a new place. He blew up, got furious instantly, and that's when I realized what kind of man he really was. I ended things. Now, it looks like I'm going to be a single mom. And here's where things get worse. I'm in England, and because of medical reasons, I can't be on the pill or use an implant, so condoms were the only birth control we relied on. Well, I'm now 2 months pregnant, and during one of our recent talks, something came out that made my blood run cold. Some people had suggested I record our conversations, just in case, so I set my phone to record when he came over. At first, he said that if we weren't together, he wanted nothing to do with this baby. When I said we could work out custody, he laughed and called it bullshit. Later, he blurted out that I thought having a baby would fix things. I told him I never thought that, and that's when he snapped, of course it was planned. How do you think you got pregnant? Magic? He paused, then tried to laugh it off as a joke. But when I pressed him directly, are you saying you messed with the condoms? He went quiet. Then, barely audible, he said yeah. I told him to get the hell out of my flat. His parting words were basically, do what you want, keep it, don't keep it, I don't care. And then he left. After he left, I texted him asking for the truth, just tell me why he really wanted me to sell my flat. Instead of replying by text, he called me, and the second I picked up, I hit record on my old MP3 player. Over the phone, he flat out admitted that what he really wanted was for me to sell my flat, take out a new mortgage, and use that money not just for a new place but to give his business a boost. That was it for me. I hung up right then. The thing is, before any of this even started, I'd already spoken to a solicitor who regularly deals with custody issues. He told me he'd help me through the process if it came to that. The only problem? He happens to be married to a close friend of mine, and as much as I care about her, she's a bit of a gossip and tends to slip into this poor you tone that drives me crazy. So, unless the recordings I made are actually useful in court, I don't want either of them knowing the details. For the record, my ex never knew he was being recorded. There's no video, just audio. On the first one we said each other's names a couple of times, but not in the second. I keep asking myself, would this even be admissible in a custody case? Because from where I'm standing, he basically gave me every piece of evidence I'd need to win, but if it isn't usable, I'd rather keep it to myself than let it blow up in my face. If it is useful, though, do I just send it straight to my friend's husband, the solicitor? Now for the update. I did break up with him. At first, he told me he didn't want to be a dad unless we were a couple, but earlier this week, he completely flipped and said he wants majority custody. Why? Because then he wouldn't have to pay child support, and, if he somehow got custody, I'd actually have to pay him. He even admitted that was his reasoning. That wasn't all. He also told me his startup is basically sinking, and his real plan was for me to sell my flat, then pump some of the cash into his business to keep it afloat. So, at the end of the day, it wasn't about family or us building a future, it was all about money for him. Thankfully, I've got tons of documentation of everything he said. I've already gotten solid legal advice, and it looks like I'll be able to go for sole custody, which is exactly what I plan to do. Of course, not everyone is on my side. My sister has doubled down on her, a baby needs a complete family opinion, and keeps pushing me to reconcile with him. Because of that, I've been keeping her out of my pregnancy news, which has her fuming. She went as far as telling our parents behind my back, which only made me angrier, so right now I'm not speaking to her either. I do want to say this, to everyone who commented on my first post, thank you. When I first shared my story, between my boyfriend's words and my sister's judgment, I was genuinely convinced I was in the wrong. The flood of support I got made me realize that I'm not crazy, and I need to stop second-guessing myself all the time. That realization alone gave me the push I needed to sign up for therapy, which I'll be starting next week. Honestly, if the outcome of all of this is me raising my baby, or babies, in the flat I worked so hard for, then that's not a bad ending at all. Speaking of babies, update number 3, it's twins. And I have no due date. Yeah, you read that right, it's twins, and I'm freaking out. I can't decide if this counts as a rant or me begging for help, because it's definitely both. At today's scan, the tech told me she thinks they're identical, but she couldn't say for sure. She asked how far along I thought I was, and I told her I calculated about 14 weeks. She looked at the scan, shook her head, and said both me and the babies looked closer to 16 weeks. She gave me an estimated due date in the first half of March, but also warned that with twins it's harder to pin down. That didn't exactly calm my nerves. The good news is everything looks healthy so far, but I keep circling back to the part where there are 2 of them. And only one of me. I've never been a mom before, and now in just a few months I'll be responsible for not 1 but 2 little humans. The reality is setting in hard. I keep trying to reassure myself, I've got space for twins, I've got enough income to support twins, and I think I have the energy for twins. But if I'm being honest, I am absolutely terrified. I don't know the first thing about raising kids, let alone twins. Do I put them in the same room or separate them? A friend offered to stay with me after the birth, and I brushed it off at the time, but maybe I should reconsider. Is raising twins totally different from raising 1 baby, aside from the obvious there's 2? And then there's the due date window. The text said sometime in March, but is that normal? Will they be able to narrow it down later, or am I just waiting for a surprise? I know I just dumped a million questions at once, but I'm overwhelmed, scared, and could really use any advice from people who've been through this, whether it's about the timing, the logistics, or just the twin chaos in general. Update 4. Looking back now, I realize I spent about 1.5 years in a relationship that was incredibly controlling. One of the biggest side effects was that I drifted away from a lot of my friends, mainly because my ex didn't approve of them. When we broke up, I was pregnant with twins, and that's when I started therapy. My therapist gently pushed me to reach out to the people I'd cut off, and I finally did. 2 names stood out immediately, Lily and Caleb. They were the friends I missed the most. When I contacted them last October, they were nothing but warm and understanding, especially about the whole mess with my ex. Talking to them again felt like slipping into a pair of old, familiar shoes, like no time had passed at all. Lily and I go way back, we've been friends since childhood. Caleb I met almost 10 years ago at university. My ex couldn't stand Lily because she's bisexual, like me, and he didn't like Caleb simply because he's a straight guy. Since reconnecting, though, I've been talking to both of them constantly. When Christmas came around, none of us had plans, so I invited them over. Lily and Caleb had technically met before but were more acquaintances than friends. That night, over Christmas dinner, they really bonded. They, along with a couple of others, even chipped in and bought me a mixer and an absolute mountain of baby supplies. From that point on, they started coming by more often. They set up a group chat so we could make plans together. They helped me paint and organize the nursery. Lily drove me to one of my doctor's appointments. Caleb once showed up with 4 tubs of ice cream just because I'd mentioned a craving in passing. Little things, but also huge things. They were just there for me, in ways most people wouldn't even think of. 3 weeks ago, I went into labor nearly a month early. With premature twins, life immediately turned upside down. I wasn't seeing visitors that first week, but a few days after we got home, Lily and Caleb messaged me to check the front door. When I opened it, there was a bag full of pre-cooked meals, snacks, and even some formula. Later, once I allowed visitors, they kept showing up as a team, one watching the babies, the other tidying the flat. Honestly, the only reason I even have the time to sit down and write this right now is because they came earlier today. Caleb managed to get both babies asleep at once, and Lily left me a meal ready to heat up. The truth is, I've always had a complicated relationship with asking for help. I grew up having to be self-reliant, so leaning on people makes me uncomfortable. But Lily and Caleb know that about me, which is why they don't wait for me to ask, they just step in and do it. I thank them constantly, and every time they brush it off, saying, "We're friends, this is what friends do." Still, I know deep down that what they're doing goes way beyond the norm. And now I find myself wondering, how can I possibly thank them properly for everything they've done? Where do I even start? Update 5. The twins are now 3 months old, and they're beautiful little girls. I've been no contact with my parents for 10 years because of the abuse I suffered growing up, and I have no intention of letting them anywhere near my kids. My sister, on the other hand, is 3 months pregnant. Here's the situation: she still lives with our parents and openly admits she doesn't want to raise a child. But they want a grandchild, so her plan is to give birth, stay living with them, and let them raise the baby while she just remains mom on paper. The thought of that makes me sick. I called her to talk about it, and she told me that if I want the baby, she's willing to let me adopt. That's the only option she's willing to consider. The father isn't involved and won't be, so it's not even a factor. I've done the math. Financially, I could handle taking in another child. With some shifting around, I could make the space work, too. My maternity leave is about to end, but I can extend it to a full year, which would give me 3 months of overlap once the baby arrives. I'd be a single mom with 3 kids under 1, but I do have a strong support system. My job has been fantastic about leave, and it even comes with free childcare benefits. So here's what I'm struggling with: is pursuing the adoption the right move? What would it realistically look like raising 9-month-old twins alongside a newborn? Would being so close in age affect them later? I know this might not be the perfect place to ask, but it feels like the most logical one. Update 6. I shared this story on another forum, and someone pointed me here, so I hope it's okay to crosspost. To recap, I've got 3-month-old twins, and my sister is also 3 months pregnant. She wants me to adopt her child. That would mean by the time my twins turn 9 months old, I'd suddenly have 3 babies under one roof, all under a year old. For now, at least, the twins are thriving and doing well. When the twins first came home, we got off to a rocky start, but things slowly even out. These days they're sleeping about 4 or 5 hours at a stretch, and I'm crossing my fingers that soon they'll sleep through the night completely. Considering they were born a couple of weeks early, they've had no major issues so far, which is such a relief. I've already arranged childcare for when I return to work. Right now, I have 2 options. I can extend my maternity leave to a full year, meaning I'd be off another 6 months, then have the newborn, and get 3 extra months to adjust, or I can go back for 5 or 6 months and then take another round of leave when the baby arrives. I can't decide which would be smarter. The flat itself is 3 bedrooms. Originally the plan was for each girl to have her own room once they were older. But if I bring a 3rd child into the picture, what's the setup then? Can they share a room? For how long? Would I need to move into a bigger place immediately, or could I wait until I have more saved? I want to take my sister's baby in because it's the only way to keep them safe, but I don't know if handling 3 babies at once is realistic, especially as a single parent. If anyone has actually lived through 3 under 1, I'd love to hear what that really looks like. I'm managing 2, but a 3rd 9 months younger sounds like a whole new level of hard. Any advice is welcome. Update 7. I went through with it. I'm adopting my sister's son. He was born just 8 days ago, but came more than 2 months early, almost 3. The plan was for a natural birth, but complications led to a C-section. Thankfully, the doctor said it went as smoothly as it could have. Because he's so premature, the hospital wants to keep him a little longer to be absolutely sure it's safe before releasing him. The hardest part is that I can't even start the formal adoption for a few more weeks, and with the current restrictions on visitors, that means I'm not allowed to see him. My sister, as the birth mother, is allowed, but she's only gone once. I was supposed to take him home yesterday, but they asked to keep him and run a few more tests. It's agonizing. I've only seen him once right after he was born. I don't even have a single photo. They give me either no information or very limited updates because, on paper, I'm not yet his mother. I'm angry, frustrated, exhausted, and anxious. My friends are trying to keep me calm, but it's not working. All I want is to bring him home and know he's safe. Update 8 July 29, 2025. I lost the password to this account and never linked an email. Earlier today I was scrolling logged out and came across a post that made me so angry I dug out my old laptop, the one that still had the password saved, just to log in and reply. By the time I got in, the post had already been locked. Then I noticed over 60 notifications waiting for me, including one from Reddit telling me my rewards were going to expire back in December 2024. Oops. Most of the other messages were people asking how I've been and how the kids are doing. So here's a quick update for anyone still out there. I'm okay. Really okay. A couple of years ago I couldn't have said that, but now I can. The girls are 4 and starting school in September. It feels surreal, like it was yesterday that the midwife was comparing their sizes to different fruits and vegetables. My son just missed the school cutoff by 4 days, so he won't start until next year. He's upset about that now, but as someone with siblings who was always glad for the extra space at school, I think in the long run he'll prefer it. Love life, the boyfriend I had after the kids were born turned out to be another scumbag, so he's gone. I took a long break from dating and eventually reconnected with the 2 people I wrote about before, Lily and Caleb. We actually tried dating between the boyfriends but broke it off because I was overwhelmed, my self-esteem was low, and I felt like I was using them. After some time alone, focusing on myself and the kids, I realized I truly love them. Thankfully, they felt the same. We're coming up on our first anniversary now. The kids know about our relationship and they're genuinely happy. Work-wise, I've switched jobs again since my last post. I've been in the new one for about 18 months. It pays almost as well as stripping did and it's hybrid, so I get plenty of time at home with the kids. As for the twins' father, no surprise, I haven't heard from him. He's dodging child maintenance, but I don't need it, so I'm not losing sleep over it. I tried opening a legal case against him, but nothing came of it. That was expected, but at least I have it on record in case he ever resurfaces. I did hear through the grapevine that he got married. I just hope his new wife controls the birth control this time. Family, still no contact. Occasionally I get screenshots from friends of relatives posting on Facebook about what a horrible person I am for keeping the kids from them. It doesn't bother me much anymore. I'm keeping my children safe, and that's all that matters. The flat, with my growing family, I did start thinking about selling. I even listed it and had an estate agent showing people around while I looked at houses. I hated every second of it. This flat has always been a symbol of what I fought for: my independence, my safety, my ability to build something from nothing. None of the houses I saw felt right. Then the flat next door went on the market. It felt like a sign. I talked to the owner and our shared estate agent. We agreed I'd take my flat off the market, buy theirs, and knock them together into one big home. It solved my space problem without losing what this place means to me, and it didn't hurt my property value either. It took a while to sort out, but I'm so happy I did it. I'm not sure what else to add except maybe that my hair is red now. Everything else is pretty much the same, but I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone's still reading. I'm assuming most of the people who followed me back when I made that first post 5 years ago are inactive, forgot their passwords, or don't even remember why they followed me. But if you do remember me, hi. Thank you for all the messages and the well wishes. I truly appreciate the support. When I created this account, I had zero self-esteem, felt low all the time, and was stuck in a controlling relationship I didn't even recognize as controlling. If it weren't for the people here telling me to get out, I'd probably still be there, without my beautiful family or my home.